So welcome everyone. Welcome to our iWay virtual user group today. We have a great agenda lined up for you guys with a lot of great information, a lot of great demos for you guys to see today. We're happy that everyone has joined us. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to be with us. A couple of housekeeping rules before we dive in. Today's session is being recorded. So you will receive a copy of the recording within 24 hours after our meeting concludes. And it will also be posted to our new ibiweb.com website. So you will also be able to view it out on demand. You will also receive a copy of any PowerPoint slides that the presenters show you today. We will be able to share those with you. You will see some demos today. Unfortunately, since they are a demo, there's not much I will be able to share with you, so you'll have to view the on-demand to go back and review those. The Q&A will be open all throughout of the webinar, so please submit all of your questions to our presenters and our panelists through the Q&A. We will be monitoring that and taking questions out loud, as well as answering directly to you for your questions. There will also be an evaluation form sent to you guys at the very end of the meeting. If you could please take a few moments and fill that out for us, your feedback is greatly appreciated. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. I have a couple of slides to share with you guys real quick from my end, just to remind you of some customer resources that are available. I'll share those here with you right now. Again, today's presenters we have with you are Debbie Weinstein, John Rosales, and Santosh Padahiri. Sorry, Santosh, if I just mess up your name there. We will be sharing our iWay Service Manager and data quality with you guys. Again, great material lined up with some awesome demos to show you guys. So just as a reminder, in case you guys have not heard just yet, we have the new ibi.com website back. We are now off of tibco.com. You can actually go to ibi.com and be able to find all of the IBI related products and solutions all in one place. Our customer stories will be posted here. We have our resource section, which features all of our on-demand user groups, our Focus Fridays, previous webinars. You can find those there. We also have an events page where you can find upcoming user groups, Focus Fridays, and webinars. You have support access, which is at the bottom of the page. Currently, you are still being directed to Tibco support. That is in the works of being, kind of transferred over to an IBI look and feel, but it is still the same support that you guys have been familiar with. It's still accessible for you. What's still coming for the website, we're still adding and making improvements to the website. We're still bringing stuff over from Tibco to put into IBI. So bear with us in the next couple of weeks, but expect to find additional and more product documentation, your data sheets and things like that. Any of the education and training information, we will be moving over here that will be accessible for you guys, as well as access to the community. So that will also be easy for you guys to access from ibi.com. Again, as I mentioned, upcoming events, we're starting to load up our calendar with upcoming events. So be sure to check that out. Register for all of the ones that you guys want to attend. Focus Fridays, virtual user groups. We've announced on several occasions we are going to be back on the road for the in-person user groups. We are looking in April at a Kansas City and St. Louis stop, and then Detroit for May. So be on the lookout for those, where those locations are and when we will be coming to a city near you. But you can find all that information here on the events page. Speaking of community, I know a lot of you guys have expressed, what's happening with the community, where it's still Tibco. And yes, unfortunately, for the foreseen future, we will still be on the Tibco community with our Web Focus portal. We are working to try to pull us out of that portal and have our own IBI community link. That is something that's in the works, and we're trying to work with our team to figure out, the best strategy to do this. But for now, we are still on the community. If you haven't joined yet, I highly encourage you to. We are going to be offering some customer enablement coming soon. Several customers have expressed, it's been a little difficult to navigate the community and where to find a lot of the great information that you guys used to have at Focal Point and My IBI. So we're going to set up and offer some enablement for you guys of where you can find that and how you can access that. We also have a private user group section within the community. You can request to join this group. And this group is all just user group community members. We'll be able to keep you guys updated on upcoming events that are going on. We have surveys and polls, and it's a chance for you guys to kind of network with other user group attendees and who are attending these meetings along with people like yourself. The technology refresh program is still available and offered to you guys to upgrade to the latest release. There is a place on the evaluation if you guys want to know more information about this. Dan Ortolani and his team would be happy to go into more detail and talk to you guys about this process, this refresh program. And just mark that on your evaluation form, and we'll make sure that Dan and his team get in touch with you. So with that, that's all I had for you guys. I'm going to turn it over now to Debbie. She is y'all's first presenter today, and we'll dive right into the material. So Debbie, the floor is yours.
Okay, bear with me while I share my screen and move, great, and move over to my slideshow. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Debbie Weinstein, and for those of you who don't know me, I was with IBI for a very long time, probably the longest of anybody on this call. And I bounced around between product management and quality assurance. I'm now back with my roots of product management, responsible for iWay Service Manager. So I am super excited to be here. I know that it's been a long time since you guys have seen a presentation on iWay and its features, but I just want to assure you, and as you'll see in the coming slides and demos, just because you haven't seen a presentation doesn't mean that we haven't been really hard at work and putting out new and exciting things. So I think you'll be impressed with what you'll see. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive right in. There's our confidentiality and disclaimer. And because it's been a while, what we decided to do was just give a review of recent releases. So the presentation that we're going to do is going to be a combination of me speaking, and then we're going to switch to somebody, Artem, who you'll meet in a little while, who's going to do a demo, and then we'll switch back to a little bit of presentation. So we want to kind of highlight some of the things that we've done recently, and we've limited it really to the last release or two that we've done. If you're on a much older release, there's obviously a lot out there that you might not have seen. And we'll do a demo, and then we're going to go through the latest / upcoming release of release 9.1. So just to kick things off, this is release 807. So 807 came out, so not even all that long ago. It was in August, and it was what we called a security release. At that time, we addressed all the security vulnerabilities that were known to us. And 807 was the security release went on top of, which was 806, which was a new feature release with a whole host of new features that I'm not going to go through now. That has been out for probably about a year and a half at this point. And also included updates to third-party jars. So if you're in the iWay 8 track, this would probably be the release that if you're not already on, we would recommend that you go to. On the heels of that, pretty much a week or two later, we came out with iWay 9. So iWay 9 was a very big change and a very comprehensive release for us. What we, up until this release, iWay was on Java 8, as were most of the products that we were working with. What this release undertook was an upgrade of Java to Java 11, so that all the major components are now on Java 11. And at the same time, we decided to also upgrade IIT, IIT's Eclipse framework, to 4.19. So also another major jump. So both of those were done in this release. We updated the third-party jars just like we did in 807 to resolve these security vulnerabilities. And we had been on the same plugin for DQ. At that time, we couldn't upgrade because the later ones required Java 11. So now that we're on Java 11, we upgraded that as well. But in addition to all of these behind the scenes things, which were major tasks, we also added a number of new features. We're always looking to add new connectors, and we base that on what you, the customers, are asking for, and based on our own research, what is out there that we think a connector would benefit both customers and prospects. So the two that we added for 9.0 were the Office 360 Outlook connector and an Azure connector. The integrated testing platform is what you're going to see the demo for shortly, and I have a couple of slides on that, so I'm just going to hold off for a second. We have IIT performance improvements and FTP upgrade. I guess you can read what the slides are here. And we're going to, and the Swift 2022 support, every year we add support and things change in the Swift world, so we have to add support for whatever the new rules are for that current year. So what is the integrated testing platform? So this is a really exciting feature, and the reason I'm highlighting it is it's a 9.0 feature, so it's been out since August. But for those of you who have either been unable to or have yet to upgrade to 9.0, we want to really show you exactly what you're missing, basically. So the integrated testing platform adds unit testing to IIT. And you'll see when you install the later versions, you'll be able to see that there's a new folder on your IIT on the left, which has test suites. And each test suite you can have multiple test cases that you can build for your flows, and you can run them. You can run them while you're working on your flows, to test to make sure that what you're building is doing what you want it to do. And equally, if not more importantly, is that it can be automated so that you can tie them together with an Ant script, which we provide. So the actions that you have, and the first two are going to be part of the demo, so you'll see specifically what those are. And as you're testing, what you can do is you can override the behavior of an object to see if your test goes the way you expect it to go. You can provide expressions to be validated and validate them for you. You can, what verify does is it allows you to verify that a test was performed or not performed as you would expect it to be. So if you might have a certain path that should be hit 20 times, you want to make sure that it is, versus something that maybe should never have been invoked if you have your logic built correctly. There's a comparison, or the compare, and finally there's a validate of your schema. You'll see, when you see the demo, you'll see there's an execution window that shows you the results. And finally, though not any less important, possibly even more important, is that you'll have an Ant task that allows you to tie everything together and automate your test suites. So with that, I would like to send this over to Artem, who is going to give you a demo. So I'm going to stop sharing. Whoops, sorry. Oh, I did stop sharing. Okay. And Artem is going to give a demo as long as he doesn't have any technical issues. And he doesn't. Great.
Hello, everyone. So here you can see I have an application project with a flow, and I have some. I have a test suite defined for the flow, and the test suite currently has two different test cases. So the flow is just a basic flow. I have it takes in a JSON document in this format. It has two fields, greeting and the name. I'm going to extract the greeting name from the document and store them into special registers, name and greeting. Then I have a choice object where I test the value of the greeting, and depending on the value, if it's hello, it goes down the hello route. And if the value is goodbye, it goes down the goodbye route. These are payload objects that construct a new JSON document in this format: message, hello, and the value of the name. Or in case of goodbye, the message is goodbye and the value of the name special register. Now let's look at one of the test cases that I've prepared. So this is a test case editor. The left-hand side shows the flow, the canvas of the flow being tested. On the right-hand side, you have some configuration details. So when the canvas is selected, this is the global configuration for the test case. So you have the input document being used for testing. In this case, I have my JSON document with the greeting hello and name of John. You also have the opportunity to set some special registers that your flow expects. You can set trace debug levels. And finally, you can provide an optional description here. So selecting an object on the flow, you get the different test actions that Debbie mentioned in her presentation. So here I have two different asserts, testing that we have a special register name with the value of John and the greeting with the value of hello. We're testing it at iteration 1. We don't have any loops here, so this is fine. So actions can be enabled or disabled. And if you have an enabled action on one of the tabs, the tab is decorated and the object is also decorated. So you know exactly which of the objects have some test actions associated with them. Also here we have in the outline, it shows only the objects that have test actions, which also lets you navigate quickly between objects. For example, here I want to see my test actions for hello object. It selects the object and it shows you the configuration. So here we have the mock tab with all the different settings that you can provide here. Override the document, specify which events the document should return, and which special registers you want to set here. For assert, we support several kinds of asserts. Verify. Compare, you can compare against the base document. XML, JSON, or flat document comparison is supported. And finally, the XML schema validation here. So as I mentioned before, here I'm testing for those special registers being present. And then for this test case, we expect the route to go down the hello route. So we're going to test. Well, we're going to have an assert which tests that the message contains the text hello John. And also for the goodbye object, we expect it to be called exactly 0 times. So let's run the test case. Now it automatically switches to the test execution view, and we can see our test case successfully completed. Let's make a change and break the test. Let's see what we can rerun the test from here. Okay, we can see that it failed. and we can see a descriptive message showing exactly what happened. So for the expression, we expected the value of hello, but got goodbye. Also, the hello object was not called, even though we expected it to be called, and instead goodbye object was called 1 time, but we expected it to be called 0 times. It's also possible to run a complete test suite as a whole, so we can do it by going to run as test suite. And now it runs both test cases. One of them completed successfully, the other one failed. Finally, you can run your tests using in an automated environment using Ant. We have a special target for that, run tests. I'm going to run that. And we get the same result with using Ant. This completes my demonstration for the testing platform.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm going to continue with the presentation. Okay, so now that you've seen the demo for the test feature, we're going to move on to the next release, which is iWay 9.10. So when we put out iWay, as we just said, when we put out release 9.0, it was for Java 11. And our thought at the time was we're going to just continue down the Java 11 path, and that's going to be the vehicle that we continue to release all of our new features and all of our releases. But we kind of came to the realization that not all customers can upgrade to Java 11 just because they want to get the new features for ISM. And they were going to end up being denied some things that would be really useful. So to solve that, what we're going to do is we're going to actually put out basically the release on 2 different versions of Java. So we're first putting out release 9.10 for Java 11, and then basically the same release will be called 8.10 for Java 8. So those of you who are bound for the time being to Java 8 will still get to benefit from the features. And the release 9.10, I wanted to be able to say that it's production, but it's been signed off and it should be available for download within the next day or 2. So it is available. It will be available very shortly, and 8.10 is going to follow next month in April. So as we've done for all releases for the past few years, there's always new connectors. These are the 2 that were added for 9.1. We added Microsoft PowerShell and Azure. We have a step debugger, which I will highlight in another slide, in another couple of slides, and that will be the subject of our second demo. We have a connector that provides integration with IBI data quality. That's what Santosh is going to talk about and John's going to demo, but we've built in integration with our own data quality product it'll allow you to retrieve updated data sets and rules. You can analyze your data sets, you can do profiling, and Santosh is going to cover more of that in detail as to what the product itself can do. We also added an application summary, which is basically a useful documentation of your application from IIT, and you can view the report. It's a report. You can review it from the console as well. The final thing that we've added is extensibility enhancements. I know I have a slide on this at the end because we're going to have one short demo on that as well, where we're providing a Java SDK to allow you to easily extend ISM. Oh, I just realized this is not in slideshow mode. Sorry about that. Okay, so what is the step debugger? The step debugger is basically functions like any debugger that you might have seen or used in the past. It will allow you to debug your flows directly from IIT. And what it'll allow you to do is you can step from object to object, you can set breakpoints, you can override values, and you can do that for a flow or for an application as a whole. And on top of that, you can also use it to debug flows that are running on remote servers. And the best way to understand this is to actually see a demo. And what I'm going to do is once again stop sharing, and Artem is going to show you a quick demo on this feature.
All right, so here, as you can see, I have an application project that contains some components. I have an API with one endpoint upload. And so what it does is it receives a multi-part request containing some attachments. It iterates through the attachments and stores them in my resources uploads directory. So right here. I also have a channel with a file listener. It listens on the folder in, and it puts out the result into the folder out. The channel calls my flow1, and the flow1 looks like this. One of the branches just passes the document, the incoming document along. The other one replaces it with a different payload that says greeting hi. And my input document says greeting hello world. So first I'm going to demonstrate debugging a flow directly. So I'm going to, this is what the configuration looks like. I'm using the greeting JSON document as the input document, and I have it set to break at the start object of my flow. So let's debug. It's going to switch into the iWay debug perspective. On the left-hand side, we can see our flow is currently being debugged. We have one thread, and it's paused at the start object. So execution can pause either before the document enters the object, or right after the document leaves the object. Right now we can see we are paused on the in edge of the object. Here we have different tabs. The variables tab shows all the special registers currently available on the object. The document tab shows the document that is coming into the object. Expressions lets you provide IFL expressions that are evaluated. So currently we can see the value of the greeting JSON path is hello world. And the breakpoints tab shows the breakpoints. Right now I don't have any breakpoints on this flow, so we'll come back to it later. We can step over. So now flow execution is paused on the out edge, and we can see it returns success. If we step over again, now the execution split into 2 different threads. We can inspect here and see which objects were paused on. Let's step over again. So the payload object, it injected the new JSON document, and it also set a special register param1 with the value of demo. So if we inspect the variables here, we can see our new special register. It's possible to change the value on the fly. Also, the document here we can see says greeting hi, but if we select the move object, it still says hello world. It's here you have the option of overriding the document on the fly, and you can also save it into the workspace. Okay, let me complete the debug session. So the next thing I'm going to show you is the ability to debug flows in the context of applications. In order to do that, I'm going to start application debug session. Okay, now it's listening on events. I'm going to set a breakpoint on the out edge of the payload object. And let's invoke the flow by calling the file1 channel. I'm going to drop my document into the input folder. And we got the breakpoint hit here on the payload object. We can see the document and also our variable. Okay, let's resume this. Another thing I would like to show is I have this API, so I already have a breakpoint set on the file object. I'm going to invoke my endpoint via Postman. I have two attachments, one containing a list of addresses and the other one a list of students. And we got our breakpoint hit here. We can inspect the document. We can see this is addresses. We can look at all the incoming headers stored as special registers. So we have our content disposition file name. If we resume the execution again, now we're on to the second attachment. We can see we got students now, and looking at the document, we can see this students XML. This completes my demonstration of the debug feature.
Okay. Okay, and finally, so thank you, Artem, for demo number 2. I actually have only one slide before we give Artem a chance to regroup for the third demo and final demo. And that is for our last key new feature that we're highlighting today, which is the extensibility enhancements. We know that there are a lot of customers out there that are interested and wanting to and extending ISM in their own ways. And so we are now providing a Java SDK that allows you to do that easily. And you can write and run and code these extensions from within IIT. And we provide a wizard, 3 different wizards for creating what you see here, the new agents, functions, and activity driver classes. And you'll see that there's a new extension project that's enabled for Maven that can hold all of these code extensions from within IIT. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and let Artem show you this last demo.
All right, so here I have one extension project. I'm going to show the extension project wizard. Basically, you just fill in the Maven properties and the project name, and you're good to go. Your extension project automatically gets a POM XML, which is configured to compile your extension classes. We currently support agent, function, and activity driver extension classes. So you basically get a Java class wizard with which you can use to create a new one. So here I have an agent extension. It's we use Java annotations to provide agent metadata and also configure some of the behavior of the agent. So here we have a label for the agent, description, and a list of events supported by the agent. So the agent I've built is going to receive, it's going to be configured with a path property. The path property will get basically a file system path, and it will test for whether the path exists. If the path doesn't exist, it's going to return an XML document with the status of unresolved, and it will also return an unresolved event. If the file does exist, then it's going to test for whether the path contains a file or a folder, and set the XML attribute accordingly, and also return the correct event. I've also prepared an IFL function, some IFL function code. So here I've implemented two different IFL functions. The first one takes in 2 strings and returns a concatenated version with a space character between the 2 strings. The second one takes in 2 integers and adds them and returns the result. So let's build our extension project. I'm going to run the package call. It's built successfully, producing an extension jar in the target folder. So here we have an application project that includes the extension jar as a library dependency. You need this in order to get access to your new agents and IFL functions. And here I've built a simple flow to test my extensions. So I have this is just my server, my demo agent, basically a server agent that is configured with my demo agent, just to prove that our agent appears in the list. We can look for it. So test path agent that I showed you before. Configured it with an XML file, which I have in the resources folder. And I have So as we said, it can return 3 different events: unresolved path, file path, or directory path. And I have 3 different end objects configured with the 3 different event types. Also in pre-execution, I'm going to use my new IFL functions to set 2 special registers, test concat and test add, as follows. Let's see. The autocomplete works for the new IFL functions. We get a nice description on the right-hand side. Let's run the flow. And we see the execution followed the isFile path, and we got our XML document with the status of file. Also, on the server object, we have the special registers that we've set with the value as expected. Finally, I would like to show you how easy it is to debug your code. So here I've already added a breakpoint in my extension agent. Let's also add breakpoints in our IFL functions. I'm going to start the debug session for the embedded server. And I'm going to test run the flow again. And we hit one of the breakpoints for the IFL function. Here we can see the incoming parameters, string 1, string 2. Now we got our add demo function called, and with you can see the incoming parameters here. And finally, the agent. We can see the incoming document. Also, all the parameters. We can look at the path. We can step through the code. And return file. This completes my demonstration for the extensibility feature. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Artem. I'm basically just gonna wrap up and say that we're excited to, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're excited to be presenting. Use the Q&A to post any questions you have or reach out to us after the presentation. And for now, I think I am turning this over to Santosh for part 2.
1 second, Debbie. There are a few
Sure.
questions that have come into the Q&A for you guys' presentation. So if you guys want to, Joseph, Artem, and Debbie, there's 3 questions in the Q&A. If you guys would please address those out loud and answer for the larger group, that would be great.
I think I'm going to defer to Joe and Artem for some of these questions.
Joe, Artem, if you wouldn't mind asking the question out loud so the rest of the group can hear and answering those, please.
Actually, I'll take care of them, and you can, Shay, I'll ask them and then they can answer them.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
Okay, so Shrikant asked us, does this mean we no longer have to use the translation methods?
We fully support what we had before, so you can continue to use those, or you could use what we've just shown right now.
Okay. The second one, do we have to restart IIT in order for the new agent to reflect under the server agent?
No, the answer is no, you don't have to restart.
Okay. Even better. And the last one, if I need other applications to use the same agent, which folder should we place it in, extensions or live?
Basically, you just have to reference the extension jar in the bundle of your application project. So that's all that's needed.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Artem. I love those questions because you can tell that we're ready to use the new features.
I like the answers because they were simple.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you, guys. If you think of any more questions for Debbie, Joseph, or Artem, please feel free to continue to submit those as the presentations go on. Actually, Dennis, there was one more that just came through. If you want to take that one real quick.
Yes. Can we download the developer version of IIT and ISM software? I believe the download's available on eDelivery, correct, Deb?
Yeah, they are. And the 9101 will be available within the next 48 hours.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all for the questions.
Thank you, guys. Again, please continue to submit throughout the presentation. But right now, we're going to go ahead and turn it over now to Santosh. So the floor is yours, and you may begin, as Debbie said, part 2. And you are on mute if you're speaking.
I just turned the mute button off. Okay. Everybody can see my screen. Can you hear me? Just one confirmation before
Yes, we can hear and see you. Thank you.
Perfect. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Santosh Padiari, and I'm part of the Omni product management team. I'm currently responsible for OmniGen, Omni Health Data, and data quality. We had some early morning showers here in Dallas, but the good news is we're expecting a fine spring afternoon that I'm very much looking forward to. I hope everyone is enjoying their last week before the clock moves forward and we lose an hour of sleep over the weekend. Here's the agenda for today. Myself and my colleague John are going to brief you on the latest product offering in the data quality space. We are going to address, or actually I'm going to address the whys and the whats, and John's going to run through a short demo that is going to show you the how-tos. So let's get on with it. Over the years, we built a suite of products in Omni, including our data quality product that helps customers get the most value out of their business critical data assets. Through our various engagements, we have also collected product reviews from customers, industry experts, and when we combine those insights with the latest technology changes and the evolving market trends like cloud and AI adoption, we realized we had to revamp our DQ or data quality product offering into a more user-friendly, cloud-native, and AI-enabled platform. So IBI Data Quality, which we launched in May last year, is our latest addition to our Omni product suite. And our goal here is to accelerate adoption of enterprise data quality initiatives through, one, simplifying access to data quality services via web-based, no-code user interface, making it easier for citizen users and data scientists to self-serve different DQ features and functions. Two, we are trying to provide seamless connectivity and information exchange between different systems and applications via our robust API services. And three, we continue to provide prepackaged content, rules, services, some built-in intelligence that will assist our users to analyze and assess their data against different data quality dimensions for key business data domains. This slide represents our latest release, which came out in December. This is 5.11. We're working on putting out a release end of this month, and I'll cover that in the release timelines. As you can see, the end user is at the heart of our product innovation. We generally put these users into two broad categories: producers that represent the developer community, building workflows and deploying services to analyze and enhance the overall quality of your business critical data. And then we have consumers of these services who are trying to gain that data quality intelligence on their data assets. We made some interesting changes on both the producer and consumer side of things. we have implemented an open service framework with a proprietary orchestration engine that now gives developers the flexibility to create these workflows using any tool, language, or development framework of their choice. Register those services in IBI data quality or IDQ to make those services reusable, accessible, and widely available across the enterprise. What that means is now you can bring in a data validation logic. Let's say you've written it in Python or Java. You can deploy it as a REST service, register it in IDQ, create different flavors of rules with that service, and publish those rules to an enterprise DQ rules catalog. Consumers, i.e. the end users, on the other end, have a browser-based no-code user interface to upload, profile their data, run that data through different DQ rules, and gain meaningful insights. We have added stats and scores, so they complement everything else that you get in a DQ workflow. You are cleansing, validating, augmenting, and enriching your data through very few simple steps, but you're also gaining those insights and you're tracking those insights over time. Also, important to note, this is a cloud-ready application. This is completely containerized, and we have support for KH deployment with installation and deployment steps very well documented in our documentation for the product. Okay, I'm going to go through some of the key features. I'm going to highlight the what's and the whys again, and then I'm going to summarize all of these and through the benefits that you can perceive to implementing IDQ. The first one, the one that I've already stated earlier, we are providing a brand new user experience. Users are set up with different roles, and they can pretty much do anything they are privileged to do via this browser-based interface. You can upload data from a flat file or different JDBC data sources. You can go through different configurations, run data profiles, dedupe your data, get advanced insights, run rules for DQ analysis, download results, and even create your own DQ dashboards to monitor data quality over time. This UI pretty much simplifies and broadens access to a wide range of DQ users. It takes away those technical barriers of knowing how to download and install a software or an additional tool, or knowing how to use the tools, such as creating complicated DQ projects just to profile your source data. The next feature I want to highlight, and this is one of the features that gives our data experts additional ability to configure their data expectations. When you upload your data, you can now select data attributes you're interested in. You can select which attributes you expect to always be unique. You can select those attributes which you think should or will have empty or null values. And also, you can define how you perceive each of these attributes will impact your business outcomes. Why we do that is we use these configurations, and we use these configurations to help evaluate your data against your user expectations and to generate scores that tell you how good your data profile is or how good your data quality is. And I'm going to touch on this a little bit more when I cover the DQ scoring feature. We have added a profiler that goes through different data discovery steps and compiles a summary of the technical characteristics of your data. For example, it shows you a completeness chart so you can identify where you're missing data in your data set. It gives you insights into each one of your data attributes, such as uniqueness, most frequent values, patterns, masks, data types. Notice we have also added two interesting columns here in the profile report. One that tells you not just the data type, i.e. it's not just a string or an integer, but it also tells you wherever we can discover the class of data, such as we have discovered phone numbers, email addresses, or social security numbers. And wherever appropriate, we also flag those attributes if they are supposed to be treated as sensitive information. The data classification gives us the ability to provide automated rules recommendations to end users. And I'll touch on that in a little bit when I cover the slide on DQ rules. The next thing that you will see is not just core profiling capabilities. We have extended that. We have added some advanced profiling features, such as if we detect duplicate rows of data, you have the option to click a button and purge them from your data set. If you're interested in doing any kind of advanced insights, such as finding correlations between different attributes or performing a clustering analysis, now you can do that as part of a profiler. This is also another area where we will continuously keep on adding new advanced profiling features, like adding a time series analysis, and you'll see us continuously grow this feature set. I'm going to touch on the data classification a little bit more. We have, as you can see on the screen, we have prepackaged a variety of data classification algorithms. Some are implemented as machine learning models. Others are implemented as regular expression checks or implemented via lookups. We also allow users to define their custom data classification rules all through this UI. Perhaps you have a field in your data set that represents a proprietary part number or product identifier. Now you can upload and profile your data. And as you're going through the profiling results, you can identify unique masks or patterns. You can take those masks and patterns, create new data classification rules, and save it, let's say, as this represents my part number or a product ID. And the next time you run through those profiling steps, these new classification rules will kick in and classify these part numbers or product IDs wherever they exist in your data set. So this is a nice little cool custom data classification feature. The next slide I'm going to cover is services. These are the actual workflows that are cleansing your data. As I referred to earlier, we have created an open services framework. What that means is you, as a developer, are no longer required to just use one tool. Like in the past, if you were using OmniGen DQ, you had access to DQ Studio to create analysis workflows. You can actually, in addition to that, you can now follow our simple service specifications and pretty much create these services wherever you want to. You can publish them as RESTful services and reuse them in IDQ. As a developer, today you have access to so many open source libraries. I extensively use PyPI or Scikit. So you can create your own service in your own comfort zone, bring them and register them in IDQ as a reusable service. This pretty much reduces your development time and effort, also makes these services reusable for a wide range of DQ applications. Also, this feature is very timely in this new world of generative AI, where we are seeing users very successfully retrieving code snippets, for example, by making requests on ChatGPT. So this is a very, what would we consider is going to become the biggest innovation that we have done on the DQ side, is to allow users to bring in these services and have an orchestration engine that can call and interpret requests and responses from these services. So moving on, we have a slight difference in terminology when it comes to rules. Rules are actually the runtime execution of these services. So once you have created these services in IDQ, you can create rules to add context on how to use these services. For example, if I have created a service that verifies an input value as a valid calendar date and standardizes the output date format, now I can, through this UI, if I've registered that service, I can go and create multiple rules with this service. I can specify an American date format and create a rule that applies to data processed or datetime datetime attributes in data that's processed in USA. Or I can create a British date or specify a British date format and create another rule that applies to United Kingdom. So you're seeing multiple rules coming out with the same underlying service implementation, because we have built in that flexibility with the butler or the service orchestration that can handle these requests, look at the parameters that are supported in the rule, and make the corresponding request to the service. These rules are also easy to search and can be created on this browser-based UI. So we have a rules editor as part of the one of the features in this user interface. And also we are expanding in our upcoming release, which is coming in end of this month, we're expanding the rules to include ticketing criteria, where you as a user can define different scenarios where you think you need human intervention to resolve a data quality issue. One of the interesting things that I want to also highlight here is the level of automation we're trying to drive. On this screen, you're seeing a rules mapper. Let's say you profile your data, and the profiler has identified different classes of data in your data set. Now we can take those classes and match it with the rules metadata to auto-recommend you DQ rules for different attributes in your data set. As you can see on the screen, we are auto-recommending and mapping rules for addresses, emails, phone numbers. You can map one attribute to multiple rules. It's one-to-many mappings. And also users have the ability to accept these recommendations that our engine is making or swap them out with any other rule that they find more appropriate for their use case. Okay, stats and scores. I touched on scoring in my first few slides. Again, we take the user expectations and all the statistics and metadata we find while cleansing data, and we use that to do scoring at two levels. We have a scoring for each individual attribute, and we have this weighted average score for the entire data set. We create these both for the profile, data profile, and the DQ score, and these are always represented on a consistent scale of 0 to 100, 100 being the best. These scores are stored in a relational database that's part of the product, and these are available as views. So users can start creating their own DQ reports with trends showing how your profile score has been changing over time, or a DQ score has been changing over time. Which actually brings me to the next important section. We have added a self-serve reporting, monitoring, and alerting application with IDQ. This is part of the application. We call this Watchdog. And as you can see, users can build their own reports and dashboards to monitor and trend the data quality of their critical data assets over time. They can set up alerts, they can set up some thresholds, they can send notifications to data owners whenever there is a threshold that has been breached. All that is part of the product now. And then finally, briefly going to touch on the API services. Every feature set or UI interaction that you'll see, you have either seen as screenshots or you'll see in the demo, has a API service in the backend that can be programmatically implemented in your data flow or your data pipeline. We provide extensive documentation on these APIs and also provide Postman collections that shows you sample client requests on how to consume these services. Release timelines. As you can see, we have been putting out a release almost every quarter. This December was our last release on TIBCO DQ. We are coming out with the rebranded IBI data quality end of this month, and it has some really nice features, ticketing being one of them, and implementation of lookups. So look out for that release. If you're not on any of our previous releases, then that's the release you want to be on. And that's let me then jump to my concluding slide here. I want to wrap up this part of the presentation and summarize some of the key differentiators and the benefits that our customers are going to start seeing when they use IBI data quality. Our goal here is to provide embedded intelligence automated, out of the box, and ready to use features with the open services framework. So it translates into a more simplified and better user experience for enterprise DQ users, be it advanced developers or citizen users or data scientists. We are focused on features that enable reusability and flexibility at different levels, from deployment, flexibility to deploy on cloud, on-prem, or hybrid, to execution. And we have added observability features to bring full transparency. So your DQ implementation is no longer restricted to just a few privileged users or treated as a black box. Instead, we aim to enable your data owners and data stewards to self-serve measurable and meaningful facts about their data assets so that they can identify opportunities for improvement and drive business value through what we always say, trusted data and meaningful data insights. With that, I will hand over to John. And if you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the FAQs and I'll try to address all your questions as they come through. John, take it away.
Thank you, Santosh. That was super rousing, and honestly, I'm excited for it. So now the next piece of the presentation. So for the remaining time, what I will do is I'll be walking the audience through a typical use case in terms of being able to leverage IBI data quality and taking a look at a data set and how we're going to go about profiling that information and looking at the results of that particular data set. So bear with me while I share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yes,
great. Thank you. Okay, so what you're looking at right now is the initial landing page to the IBI data quality platform. So as we can see here, we have all of the highlights in terms of the particular services and features within IBI data quality, namely the homepage, the rules, services, data classes, the watchdog, and even an administration page. So typically, whenever a user will enter into this landing page, the first thing that they will see is that, one, they'll be able to see all the data sets that have already previously been profiled. And we've made it apparent that if you wanted to start moving into a new set, you can start to explore data right here within this upper right-hand corner. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and explore our data. And what you can see here, typically what we've seen is that folks are using flat files or may potentially want to be able to connect to a JDBC data source, a database of some sort. So, we give you those particular options to upload. In this case, we're going to go ahead and upload a data file that's already been selected for us, right? So I'll go ahead and find my data file and start to input this information. So once we start to select that particular data, we'll see some metadata about this particular source. And this is very helpful in terms of being able to track this data source, this observability for your data source, right? So, it would be prudent for you to go ahead and enter in this information to be able to kind of track this over time and see how your data is actually doing, right? We have the particular expectations for this file. We understand that it has a header and so forth. So we'll just go ahead and finish. And once that item is uploaded, we now see that there's an option to add a profile. And then as we start to walk through this particular workflow, each option will start to pop up based off of our next action. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and add my profile. And what you'll see right away is we have the attributes listed on the left-hand side, and then the sample values within the first 3 columns here. And Santosh had noted that this is the area where we'll set our data expectations for our particular attribute. So I'm going to go ahead and do a select here and then choose these particular expectations. No particular order necessary, but I'm going to maybe set some business impact for a couple of these items as well. And to remind folks, the idea here is that when we're starting to set these expectations about our data, this is going to drive the scoring not only for our entire data set, but also for the individual attributes that are selected. So we see that we have the row selected. I'm going to go ahead and create our profile. And as it starts to process, we'll be able to see that now. The option has now changed to be able to view this profile. So let's go ahead and take a look at this, this information. So what we can see here is we are told the number of variables that we have seen and then the particular observation. And then we have some information about the missing cells, percentage-wise and count-wise, and even from a duplicate row perspective. What you're seeing here is that you'll have for each attribute a percentage of completeness and then a percentage of if there are nulls or blank values. We'll be able to see that here. So you can start to highlight over and or hover over and see those particular instances, right? So this gives a user that's working with this particular data set a good understanding of the health of this particular data set and if it's going to be useful for them to even start working with. So as we start to process this along, what we'll now be able to do is see information about the particular attributes that have been scanned. And with those data expectations, we see that we have a profile score for each attribute. Santosh had mentioned that there is a particular data type that is selected here. And then as part of the machine learning process, we do have areas where it may select or suggest a particular data class and potentially sensitive data, right? So as we're starting to scroll down, we can see that information. In addition, we'll see the completeness and uniqueness percentages and some profile highlights with the length values and then the most common masks or pattern. Finally, you'll be able to see a top 5 value frequency of the top 5 values within a particular attribute. Now, the next couple options that we have here, as Santosh mentioned, we do have the ability to purge our duplicate records if we want to do that. But even further, if we would want to understand and maybe build out a correlation, we can certainly do that here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and add a correlation. And I can certainly choose all of the variables for my correlation step. And typically the correlations that we will have here are for Kendall, Pearson, and Spearman. So those are the 3 most common correlation formulas that are in use today. So we'll go ahead and select that. And I'll go ahead and run this particular correlation processing. And instinctively, it's going to return back and I'll have an idea of my correlative values across the board here. So for folks that aren't necessarily familiar with correlations, the idea here is that once you are looking at a positive 1, if you're looking at a correlated value between or 2 values that come to a positive 1, that means that they're moving in the same direction. And if they start to move towards a negative 1, which is kind of this darker brownish color, what happens is they're moving in opposite directions, right? So this kind of gives you a little bit of insight into there. And as Santosh mentioned, we do have the ability to add additional insights or advanced insights. So right now we're leveraging cluster analysis with k-means. However, he mentioned that we will be expanding this even further as we evolve the solution. So what we'll do is I'll go ahead and select my two items here and then go ahead and finish. And right away we see kind of a clustering analysis based off of these particular attributes that I've selected here. So overall, I just want to point out here that now you have that data set score for the overall data set. And then for each of the specific attributes, you'll be able to see those profile scores here. So now the next thing we can do here is take a look and see if there are any rules that this particular data set may be able to be used against. So when I go ahead and open up my rules, what you'll see is that instinctively it's taking a look at my particular data set and suggesting map rules that I can use within this system here. So it looks like it selected some address information because of that, and some phone numbers and even an email address. So I'll go ahead and run that analysis. And while that's running, you'll see that it's going to go ahead and process through. So as we start to process that particular data, oh wait, did I add that? I think. Oops, sorry about that. Looks like my system's been up for a long time, so that's not a problem. I've actually prepended these rule sets beforehand, so it's not a problem. So what we'll see here is typically that summary of rules will come through. And we do have some options here to be able to see that summary data set here. So here's where you have these particular tags that are brought out for those given rules and the given statistics for those given attributes, right? So now we can see within these particular data scores, we'll be able to process that along and see that familiar information. If you're curious to know what particular rules you have available, you can certainly go to the rules and start searching based off of a business context or a metadata context, or even just search by the rule name. So if I start to type in address, I can see that there's addresses for cleansing emails, cleansing US addresses, or even IP addresses and so forth, right? So right off the bat here, I want to say that looks like there's about 39 or so. Initially, when we started, we were at about 23 when the first iteration came out. So we've significantly increased the rule sets that are available for consumption in this latest release. And again, the idea here is that some of these rules will be based off of a common service. So if you're curious to understand what services are being used as well, you'll have that information within TIBCO or IBI data quality as well. And what we can see here is that for each service, we'll see the total time for processing, and then also the average time that it has been used, so forth. So you'll be able to get some statistics about these particular services. And again, the particular data classes that you have available here can also be shown to be able to understand, how are these data classes pulled together. So as an example, this email data class is based off of a regular expression. So we can take a look at that particular regular expression and see whether or not this thing has been set up and so forth, right? So if we wanted to introduce any new data classes or any rules, certainly have that ability to go ahead and do that, right? And this is strictly from a citizen data user perspective, right? So there's really a low code situation here where you're not necessarily having to go through and run through a complete development cycle. You can introduce these data classes as you see fit. Now, finally, what we would like to see is the watchdog, right? So as I've kind of run through a variety of these particular assets. Oh, here you go. Looks like my data set finally came back. Okay, very good. So what we can see here is now we'll go through and take a look at my data scores. So now we can see this is in the last 12 hours. So this is a relative time set. And you can certainly adjust this to see what this looks like maybe for the past 30 days or so. So I'll go ahead and see in the past 30 days, I've run my profiles a variety of times, but we have seen that my data quality scores have continually decreased. So that gives me an indication that overall, from a data quality observability standpoint, that my data is getting worse over time, and I really need to start looking at those particular rules that are being implemented and potentially, make some changes or start doing some major cleanup around those areas here. From this standpoint, as Santosh mentioned, you will have the ability to adjust and potentially add new panels to this, leveraging the built-in repository where we're stashing these particular scores and other information within this particular watchdog. So overall, I just wanted to kind of close it out by kind of letting you know that, again, from this standpoint here, the idea here is that we're making data quality really accessible and more of a self-service feature so that folks can start to leverage an enterprise rule set based off of your data quality expectation within your organization. And then finally, if you wanted to orchestrate this in some particular fashion, you would certainly have that ability to leverage the APIs. And as Santosh has noted within his presentation, we do have Postman collections where we have samples where you can actually orchestrate these particular calls, and it will actually set up the whole workflow to walk you through this entire process here. One other thing to note is that right now the system that I'm running is within Docker Desktop. So being a cloud native deployment, it's very much a pretty quick deployment to be able to get moving forward. So overall, we really see especially now, we're seeing a lot of interest within making sure that data quality can get out to the masses, and having this capability with the APIs, with the data quality rules being callable for other applications. There's really been a big shift in that space, and folks are really starting to come around from perspective of understanding data quality. So so that kind of concludes the demonstration. Hope you enjoyed it. Any questions or anything, feel free to, oh, you know what, maybe I should take a look at the chat or take a look at the Q&A.
Yeah, John, it does. It looks like you have a question there if you want to take that one.
If you want to add more records, okay, sure. So I'll note this. If you want to add more records to cleanse, you need to create a new TDQ profile, or can you import a new CSV to the existing profile? Yes. So if you would like to use an existing profile, right? So the data expectations that you've selected for this particular data set that you've cleansed, you can take the profile characteristics of that profile and leverage that on a new data set and not have to reestablish those particular data expectations. So Toinette, there is also another question here. Will the DQ license include a limited web focus license as previously? So I will defer to Dennis on that. I'm not sure if you'd like to. Hopefully Dennis is there.
I am here. What was that again?
Yeah, so the question here, Dennis, is will the DQ license include a limited web focus license as previously?
Okay, so the DQ license never actually included a OmniGen. Some of the OmniGen verticals did include a limited use web focus license, but we haven't had, at least in the last 10 years, a limited use web focus license since we had the what was it? The profiler, the what do you call it? Our own version of the profiler that used web focus. So no, we don't have that limited use license in there anymore because we're not using web focus as the visualization tool for profiling.
And actually, that's a great point too, Dennis, is that even though we're not using web focus doesn't mean that you can't use it.
Correct.
For profiling, right? So I just
Yeah.
want to point that out, right? So the intent here is that it's exposable to any third-party visualization tool that you want to leverage, right? So it's really, we understand that there are organizations that are just they have to use that particular visualization tool. That's fine, you can certainly do that. But to be able to include it within the product itself, go ahead, might as well just do that. Okay, another question here. What are the plans in terms of MDM? So maybe I'll defer to either Dennis or Santosh for that one.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So
Okay.
You're going to be you're going to be seeing a lot of exciting things going on with MDM in the very near future. You know that we have produced our OmniGen family of products. It has certain underlying MDM capabilities. You've seen in the past year with IBIDQ that we've made changes around building up new data quality capability and giving you the ability to write rules with Python. So we're also going to be, and this is kind of a sneak preview, we are going to be announcing an additional ability to build MDN rules with a tool called IBI-MDM in the very near future. Look for that in, I guess, May, Santosh. I guess it'll be the first manifestations of that. But MDM is getting bigger and better, and with new capabilities. And you know, the only thing I'll say, Toinette, right now is watch this space, because there's a lot going on, and you're going to see some really exciting stuff like new tooling, new rules creation, AI-based MDM as opposed to rules-based MDM. So there's, you know, stay tuned, because Shay will be organizing something before too long that talks all about the exciting things we're doing with MDM.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Santosh. Appreciate your time on those responses. That kind of closes up my piece of the presentation. So again, thank you. Happy International Women's Day to all the women out there. Happy Holi to everyone that is celebrating Holi today as well. And I'll toss it back over to Shay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. Again, thank you so much to our presenters today, John, Santosh, Debbie, Artem, Joe, Dennis. Thank you guys for all contributing and participating today. Lots of great information. Just as a reminder, guys, we did record the meeting, so give me about 24 hours and I will have this over to you. It will also be posted under the resource section on ibi.com. You'll be able to view that on demand. I also threw in the evaluation form in the chat. If you guys could please take a moment, we really appreciate your feedback. As Dennis just mentioned, we are going to do more of these iWay virtual user groups. So please send in your topic suggestions. Let us know some things you want to hear about that we can include in our presentations. And we will have a lot more coming to you guys now. So stay tuned for those. And again, you will receive a copy of any presentations that you saw today that will be included with the recording. So on that note, we are at time. I will give you guys back the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you soon.